If you're a regular follower of the channel, you know that I hate pussy. Cats. Well, that's not true. If you add enough jerk seasoning, they taste okay. However, if you take a pussy cat and you add in Michelle Pfeiffer, then some latex, and a whip, I may make an exception. In fact, I may make two. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Welcome to the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. We are all about extreme collectibles, and here we have two 1/4 scale statues of Catwoman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer in the god-awful Batman Returns movie. That's right, I frickin' hated that movie. But I love Michelle Pfeiffer, and I loved her portrayal of Catwoman. So we're going to do two things today. First, we're going to do a little bit of detail on the tweeter headpiece that just came out, the one in front here. And then we're going to do what we call an Extrumble or an Extreme Rumble, where we compare and contrast the two in a bunch of different categories and determine which statue is actually better. Now, I had no plans to get the tweeter head one here in front. However, it was on Sideshow Seconds. You combine that with points, and I ended up getting it for $200. And I really wanted to see which one is better. And I'll tell you right now, there is not a clear-cut winner, so you definitely want to stick around. Now, if you want to see specific stuff about the Sideshow one, I have done a video on that in the past. You can check it out right here. So before we dive into the Extrumble, let's take a look at the unboxing and some close-ups of the tweeter head. Because it was on Sideshow Seconds, it didn't have an exact box. I had to put it in this box, but I still have the art box. There's an affiliate link in the description below if you're interested in buying anything. It does help support the channel. But there's the art box, and then it had the standard foam we're used to seeing tweeter head in, the white foam. It was just one layer, as you can see, and it wasn't that many pieces. You have Catwoman, couple arms, the cat, and the base. Alright, let's kick off with the Extrumble. Now before we do, I do want to let out an apology. I apologize for the lighting. I usually only wear latex when it's pitch black. So you can see the spotlights are doing a lot to the latex on the figures here. And of course it's not real latex, it's sculpted, but we'll talk all about that. So we're going to use the traditional categories, compare and contrast each one, and assign a winner. So the first thing we always talk about with the statue is concept. Now this is a pretty clear winner for me, but let's dive into them. Now the sideshow here, we have a museum style sub base on the bottom. I'm never a fan of these, whether it's the initial base or it's a sub base like this. I think they could have incorporated the building that they have on top. Now the building does have ties to the movie because she was on a few different rooftops. And I think they did a nice job with the brick and the concrete and even the smokestack behind her. And she is very elegant, very sexy. She's standing there, assumably trying to allure someone with her whip wrapped all around her in her latex stitched up costume that she made in her own home. I think as we move up, likeness is actually going to be a category as well, but she does look very sexy. And maybe that's just because I had a huge crush on Michelle Pfeiffer growing up. Now the other piece has a very cool concept as well. They've incorporated a few different things in the movies. So first you have kind of the outside of a building, kind of a conceptual base. So no museum style here. And as you move up, she is lounging in it in a very similar pose to when the Penguin first walked into his bedroom and she was sitting there waiting for him. Again, this isn't an exact scene from the movie. They took a few different elements from that. And she's leaning on this giant cat head, which we saw all throughout the movie as well. And again, a very sexy position, very taunting temptress, just like the other one. I think it's really cool. So which one is better? For me personally, I like the tweeter head much, much better. For the simple reason it ties in so many different aspects of the movie, as well as pulling specific things from that movie, where this is just kind of generic. They took the character from the movie and did their own thing. Now we're going to talk about design and display ability. Few different things going on with here. None of them have any switch outs with one exception. The tweeter head had two different versions, a regular and an exclusive. The exclusive came with the cat right here. Well, I don't think this is a make or break. It is a nice addition to the statue. As you can imagine, display ability is very different on these because they're in very different positions. So let's get the dimensions really quick. The sideshow one is only about 9 inches wide and probably the same depth, where the tweeter head is damn near 21 inches wide and maybe about 6 inches deep. And then, of course, the heights are going to be very different as well. You have a little over 22 inches on sideshow and a little under 14 inches on tweeter head. Now, one other thing that's considerably different, these are not the same scale. They're supposed to be what we call 1/4 scale. So 4 times smaller than the original version. However, to start with, they're portraits. The tweeter head is at least 20% bigger. I wish there was a way I could show you guys the comparison of these, but it's a little hard to do. So let's see if we can measure it, maybe like from ear to ear. So ear to ear is about 1 5/8. And then over here, it's about 1 1/2. So again, I think that's about 20% different. So here's a picture of both of them next to the same custom penguin head. First you have the sideshow, notice the size difference. Then here you have the tweeter head. And you'll also see that on the body, and some of the sculpt is very different. Like for example, if you're thinking about leaving the video, just wait because this one has a much bigger ass. So for displayability, the sideshow is nice because it doesn't take up a lot of width and depth space. However, the tweeter head's nice because you don't need a really tall cabinet. Although 22, 23 inches isn't that tall either. And you can display her behind other pieces, and you can display her in front of other pieces. So when it comes to design, honestly, I think they're both a tie. I think both are fantastic options, and I don't know which one is really the clear winner. Now let's talk about the portraits and the likeness of Michelle Pfeiffer. So when you look at both of them, keep in mind the sideshow piece is quite a bit older, so you'd expect it to be not as good. And honestly, just spoiling the category, I don't think it's as good. However, I don't think tweeter head is actually there either. While there's some paint and sculpt things we're going to talk about more later, I think we give the likeness to tweeter head as it's closer. But honestly, I keep changing my mind as I look at each one. Now the paint and sculpt, I would expect tweeter head to be way better. However, I don't think it's way better. I think there's some areas that it's better. And we're comparing different bases, so that makes it kind of difficult. And honestly, both of the bases, I think, are done very well. I think the paint and sculpt is pretty equal on them. Again, we're not talking about concept, we're talking about the actual execution of the paint and sculpt. So let's just focus on Catwoman herself. Now, boots. One thing I like better about the boots and the tweeter head are the folds that they added into it. It's a little too smooth with the sideshow ones. They both have these nice laces on front. Also, it's a little bit more clean on the tops of the boots with the tweeter head, so I think the boots are done better on the tweeter head. I also like the matte finish a little bit better because it's a little bit more contrast to the actual outfit. So tweeter heads has a much more glossy shine on it. And I like that because I think that's more movie accurate. And once again, just like the boots, you see a lot more folds and wrinkles. Granted, she's not standing straight up, so that could be just part of the design. And even looking at the stitching is way better on the tweeter head than it is on the Sideshow. So I think the outfit actually goes to tweeter head as well. Now, one thing I think Sideshow did about the outfit, which looks great, I like how it's so stitched together, it's actually coming apart. You can see that on her leg and then here on her shoulder. Tweeter head didn't do that, so I give that advantage to Sideshow. Then looking at like her nails here, you know, it's interesting. Sideshow, they made theirs black, and I think that's a huge miss because in the movie they were the silver color you see on the tweeter head piece. So again, that goes to tweeter head as well. The whip, I love the braids in the whip on tweeter head. Sideshow, I think, is more condensed together, and again, it could have been a challenge for the technology at the time, so I think that's definitely a miss, and that's better on tweeter head. Now let's talk about the anatomy. And honestly, it looks like tweeter head did a much more full Michelle Pfeiffer. And I'll have to go back and watch this god-awful movie, but I don't think she was this voluptuous. I think she was a little bit more skinny, which honestly is how I like my women. And part of it is the position she's in, but it almost looks like her belly's a little bit bigger. She does have a slightly bigger chest. As I said, her ass and thighs are much, much bigger on the tweeter head. I'm not a fan of that. I think the Sideshow is a little bit more accurate. And then that brings us to the portrait. So the ears are a little bit different, and I think it's the direction that they're pointing. I think the tweeter head's a little bit more accurate. They're kind of more to the side, almost pointing straight forward, where the Sideshow is a little bit to the right and left, slanted. I think the mask contours to the face much, much better on the tweeter head, and again, it could be something for the technology. I think the eyes are probably a little bit more accurate on the Sideshow, especially when you look at those huge, look at all the mascara around the tweeter head piece. However, I have to give the nose and the mouth to tweeter head. I think it's well more defined. It looks much more like Michelle Pfeiffer. But I think for the sculpt, it's clear that despite the issues with the anatomy, I think the tweeter head is better, which we would expect because I believe it's 10 years older than the Sideshow piece. I'm not sure how old, but at least 5, if not 10 years older. Paint. The gloss on the uniform, I think, gives it to tweeter head. If they didn't have that, I would probably be more apt to go with the Sideshow one. But I like how glossy the latex is, so I think for that reason, tweeter head wins as well. Now value. Value is kind of a tough one. They made 7,500 of the tweeter head. Damn. They made 2,500 of the Sideshow, so that's a lot as well. Sideshow retailed for $450. Tweeter head retailed for $600. So while there may be some superior things on here, it's $150 more and there's 3 times as many. So I think Sideshow still holds the value to that because again, there's certain displays where this might actually look better. Who's the overall winner? This isn't a culmination of the previous categories. I think it would go to tweeter head, but I think she's overscaled a little bit. While I love the pose, I think that this has more displayability. But if you said, Mr. X, you have to get rid of one, which eventually I probably will have to, I'm probably going to get rid of the Sideshow. I think the fact that I don't have a lot of extra space because I'm a hoarder, that I could put her in front of other statues helps quite a bit. So I'm choosing tweeter head as the winner personally, but I think it's pretty damn close. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below because you could win a statue. Hell, maybe we'll do this as a giveaway. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Again, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for hanging in with the lighting situation. I never really experienced this. Like I said, I usually do latex in the dark alone. So please hit that subscribe button if you like stuff like this. Lots of cool videos coming up. In the meantime, you know what to do.